Alright, how's it going, guys? Alex Glenn here, back with another video. Today in our video I'm just going to talk about really how I gained the amount of muscle that I did, how I lost the amount of fat that I did, and basically just essentially where I started from and how I got to where I am now. Now keep in mind, this is what I personally did, what I personally recommend, and what personally works best for myself. And some of you out there may not agree with what I'm saying, or you may just respond better to other things. So don't take everything I'm saying to heart. This is just what I would do for myself, what I did for myself, and also what I'd recommend to you guys to try out. And so basically, I'm going to put up pictures right here of my 2-year transformation progress. The first picture right here, that was about 2 years ago, my senior year of high school, and that was right when I first started to get into the bodybuilding style of training and really just started getting consistent with my diet and training and everything. Up until then, I've been training for about 6 years in total, because I've been an athlete ever since I was in school. So I played football, basketball, ran track, kind of did all that stuff. So I've always been familiar with the gym. I've always been getting workouts in and stuff like that. But really, once high school ended and I wasn't playing sports anymore, I needed something to really keep me active, keep me consistent, and something that I could really get down to the nitty-gritty with and progress in. And the gym has been that passion and that love for me, because up until then I was football was every little thing in my life. I lived and breathed football, and once that ended, I needed something else, and I've really found that in working out and bodybuilding. So this right here is what I currently am now. As of about 2 weeks ago, I took this picture, and the difference between the two pictures, I'm about, the one on the left, I've probably gained roughly 20 pounds more of muscle since then, but in total there's only about 15 pounds difference in total between the two, because in the one on the left I think I was about 15 pounds lighter than I am now, but I completely changed my body composition between the two. And the one on the left, I wasn't nearly as lean as I am now, and I didn't nearly have as much muscle as I do now. So I spent a good amount of time when I first started cutting down body fat. And that's what I'd recommend for anyone when they first get into the gym and are looking to see results. They don't really know whether they should build muscle or lose fat first, and it all kind of depends. But a general rule is, if you are unable to see definition in your core, you can't really see any of your abs or your obliques or anything like that, that's a good sign that you maybe could afford to lose a little bit of body weight. So I recommend just cutting down until you get a little bit leaner, and then spend all of your time in a surplus trying to build as much muscle as you possibly can. Unless you are someone who is already very skinny, doesn't have any muscle in their frame whatsoever, don't even worry about cutting down. Just focus on being in that surplus consistently and gaining muscle. And since I've started this previous 2-year journey of mine, I've cut down initially right at the start. I honestly probably took that a little bit too seriously and went down too far, lost some muscle that I already had with that, so kind of counterproductive in that sense. But I got very lean. But since then, I've only spent, I don't know, maybe a month or two worrying about trimming down body fat, but the rest of the time, for over a year, probably about a year and a half in total, it's all been in a calorie surplus, a slight surplus, trying to build as much muscle as possible. And obviously trying to stay lean as well, but inevitably you're going to gain some body fat when you try and build muscle. So basically that's really what got me up to where I am now in these past 2 years. Now I'm going to talk and get more specific in each of the kind of categories, whether that be training, nutrition, mindset, just kind of go in depth in all three of those things. So stay tuned, guys. Here we go. All right, guys, so now it's time for the first part of this video, and it's going to be talking about training, and more specifically what I did for myself to gain the amount of muscle that I did and lose the body fat that I did these past 2 years. So like I said already, I've been training for in total 6 years, but only 2 of those years have been focused on muscle building and like bodybuilding style of training. And the biggest thing that I can tell anyone when they first start training or getting into bodybuilding or trying to build muscle and just improve their physique is you need to stay consistent. The biggest thing you can do, get on a routine of some kind. And it doesn't necessarily matter what kind of routine you're following or how many days a week you're training, But what the biggest thing is that you're staying with something that you can stay consistent to. And whether that's 3 days a week, you're hitting 3 great workouts a week. Whether that's 6 days a week, you're hitting the gym 6 great times a week, and you're staying consistent with that. Now, along with that consistency, what falls under that is tracking your progress and making sure you're having progressive overload. What allowed me to gain the amount of muscle that I did in 2 years, not to say that I gained a whole lot of muscle, but I do definitely have an improved physique than I did 2 years ago. But what allowed me to do that is consistently focusing on progressive overload. And I did that by tracking every single one of my lifts, tracking every single rep that I did, and on a weekly basis, progressing in either the weight that I was lifting, the reps that I was lifting, or any other form of progressive overload, such as time under tension, frequency, anything like that. Because that's ultimately what's going to drive muscle growth. Is you can't give your body a reason to grow. Your body won't grow muscle if you don't give it a reason to. So you have to progressively keep putting it under more stress and more tension, because that's going to force your muscle groups to adapt. And for me personally, the training split that I've done majority of this time has been a 6-day-a-week push-pull leg split. But even when I first started, I would do 3 days a week. I would do like an upper and lower body split for 3 days a week, and I saw great results on that. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter the type of split you're following, but more so just the kind of split that you can enjoy and stay consistent to, and obviously progressively overload your body with. Some methods that I would recommend for helping you stay consistent and track is simply just using the Notes app in your phone. You record every little workout that you do inside the day that you're working out. I recommend recording the reps, the weight, the sets, even your personal weight. But yeah, so that's another thing you can even track and throw into that is your daily weigh-ins. That's personally what I do. I'll have the day of the week, what I'm training, every exercise I'm doing, and then the weight that I woke up and weighed that morning at. So I literally try to track everything, and that's what I've done for the past 2 years to help me stay consistent and keep improving. So now for the second part, and honestly, this is probably the most important thing that has allowed me to make the progress I've made the past 2 years, and that is diet. So initially, before these 2 years, I always thought that in order to lose body fat, you had to essentially starve yourself. You couldn't eat anything but, chicken, rice, broccoli, just simple, boring foods like that. And to gain muscle, I thought you just had to eat nonstop. Literally, you could eat whatever you want. So essentially what I thought was that they're good and they're bad foods. And then if you eat one bad food, it'll make you automatically gain fat. Or if you eat one of the good foods, you'll automatically get in better shape, where that is not the truth at all. The biggest thing diet related that has helped me, and the biggest thing that honestly anyone should focus on, is learning how to understand your total caloric intake and your macronutrients. For the past 2 years, I got involved and I did some research, and I learned about the benefit of tracking macros and how you need to pay attention to your calorie maintenance, and how in order to gain weight, you need to be in a calorie surplus. In order to lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit. And essentially, you can eat whatever foods you want as long as you fit them into your daily calorie and macronutrient goals. So what I did is I started tracking every single day as accurately as I could. And that way, I could consistently relate my results and correlate that to my weight and everything that I was eating. So I had a reason, and I could see a physical copy of everything that I was doing to relate to my progress. And the biggest thing is that I could be consistent every day. Because if you're not tracking your macros or knowing what macros to hit, one day you're going to be eating a whole bunch of food and be in a big surplus, but then the next day it could be completely different. You could be in a major calorie deficit because you don't eat anything. So the importance of staying consistent, just like with your training, is even more so important with your diet. It's absolutely pointless if you're trying to gain muscle, to eat as much food as you possibly can one day, but then the next day you just don't do anything at all. I mean, it's stupid. So with that, when I was trying to cut down, I could put myself in a deficit. I could see everything that I was eating and know for a fact that I was in a deficit, and vice versa. When I was trying to build muscle, I put myself in a slight calorie surplus, and I could see everything that I was eating and consuming. And that way, if I wasn't gaining weight, I could look directly at my progress and see, okay, I'm not eating enough food here. I'm not eating enough of this macronutrient, or I'm eating too much of this here. I need to change something. So by tracking everything, like I've just said, it's going to keep you consistent. It's going to allow you to see what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And most importantly, it's just going to allow you to know for sure, because we all have this idea, or we all think we eat a certain amount of food. We all think we may be eating enough. We all think we may be eating too little, but we never know until we start tracking. So that's honestly the biggest thing I've done. And I've done that every day for the past 2 years. And because of that, that's what allows me to progressively overload in the gym. That's what allows me to fuel my body with the right nutrients so I can perform well in the gym, perform well in my lifestyle. So diet is by far the biggest thing. So the last part I'm going to talk about that isn't necessarily as important as training and diet, and it won't directly cause you to gain muscle, but it's very important. And this part is mindset. So mindset, at first, lots of us it's very easiest to fall into someone else's beliefs or views, basically just because we're new. We lack knowledge about something. And I guess what I'm saying here is talking more specifically about fitness, working out, nutrition. We lack the knowledge about that stuff at first. So we're very easy to fall into the opinions of others. We're often looking at the biggest guy in the gym, trying to figure out what he's doing. Or we look at all these big bodybuilders that are jacked up on steroids and at the Olympia and trying to mimic everything that these people do. When the biggest thing you can learn and teach yourself is to not compare yourself to anyone else at all. You need to focus on what's best for you, what gives you the best results, not what this 300-pound ball of muscle who's jacked up on steroids is telling you to do or saying everyone needs to do. Most likely when you have all these role models that are all jacked up and professional bodybuilders, their style of training and diet is not going to work best for you, because that is tailored to someone who is at the top level, who has a much higher training intensity and has been doing this for a long time. And plus, I don't want to get into it just because it's a whole nother conversation, but lots of these people that we look up to and try and get information from, lots of them are physically enhanced by the use of steroids and other types of drugs. And because of that, they have different approaches to everything. So their approach will not necessarily work for us. It's completely different. So what you need to do, figure out what you respond the best to. Find something that works and stick with it. It's not going to do you any good to sit and wish you could look like this person. Sit and wish you could be as strong as this person. Instead, focus on the good things that you have and the progress that you've made. By no means am I the biggest guy in the gym. Honestly, there's so many people out there that are bigger than me. There's so many more people out there that have that are more ripped or toned than I am. But what makes me successful at what I'm doing is that I'm satisfied with who I am, and I know that on a daily basis I'm going to go in and I'm going to beat who I was yesterday. And you can't let that get affected by anyone else. You need to focus on just beating yourself on the daily basis and improving every single damn day. All looking at anyone else and comparing yourself to others is going to do is just going to slow you down and potentially give you false beliefs and false information that will ruin everything. So take the time, love yourself, learn about yourself, and improve yourself. But yeah, that's really all I got to say about this part. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed watching that video. Like I said before, this is just the stuff that personally works best for me and personally what I did to get me to where I am today. If something doesn't necessarily work for you or you don't agree with something, that's totally fine. Just don't take it to heart. But please, if you do find any of this stuff interesting or have questions about anything, let me know. I'd be happy to help you guys out. But by far, the biggest things when it comes to training and nutrition is the consistency part of it. You need to be doing the same exact thing every single day. And that's one of the hard things about it, is it can get boring. So that's when your discipline comes into play. That's when just having the knowledge about certain training aspects, your nutrition comes into play. So with training, it was the progressive overload, which drives the muscle growth. With the diet, it was tracking my macros so I could see what exactly I was eating and stay consistent with that on a daily basis. And lastly, there's the mindset, which honestly it doesn't necessarily relate directly to muscle growth, but it plays a huge role in helping you stay consistent in the gym, put in that hard effort, and learning to figure out what works best about yourself and learning about yourself. So like always, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.